is James Sherry, and I am the publisher of Roof Books and run the Segue Foundation in New York City. And I'm really grateful that you've all been able to come out to hear us. And we're going to do 5 readers from the Roof group, and each of them is going to read about 10 minutes, and then and I hope you'll enjoy it. Our first reader is Lonely Christopher. Lonely Christopher is a multidisciplinary queer experimental writer of fiction and drama for stage and screen. He's the author of 3 Roof books: The Resignation, which we did in 2018, In January Wood, 2020, and the 10th anniversary reissue of Death and Disaster series just came out at the end of last year. He's the founding creative director of Interpoets Theater, a project of the Segue Foundation, where he is managing director and one of the editors of Roof Books. So, Lonely Christopher.
Thank you, James. It's great to be here. This is my first time in New Orleans. Before I became the managing director of the Segue Foundation, I was just a Roof author, and it's great to be sitting here with this prestigious panel of other Roof authors. And I'm actually going to share some new work. If you're interested in my poetry, we've got a couple of my Roof books downstairs for sale at the Roof Books table. But I'm going to share with you some newer work. 2 poems. This one is called Escape from the Empire State. I thought it might be amusing to come to New Orleans and read about how miserable it is to live in New York City. It's written in meter and rhyming meter, but the references, it's kind of closer, more toward like musical theater, like have anybody seen Company, like that song, another 100 people just got up to the bus, that kind of. So this is called Escape from the Empire State. I'm stuck in New York and I'll take it. My life is a mess, but I have to confess there's nowhere to go to escape it. From the Bowery to the Bronx, the noxious screams and harping honks from cars and bars and restaurants, namely the hallowed shallow haunts where we share our needs and wants roar unceasingly into my brain. While another condo skyward rises, I become familiar with the pain of austerity and bad surprises. Landlords, lawyers, traffic cops, tech bros, brokers, financiers. The rage begins when the panic stops. We've been fighting these battles for years, and years elapse. Please hold my glass. I once tried going to the gym, never more terrified, alas, looking much like you or her or him. This city of rat shit and tension, tremendous and sour, with me every hour, cart before the horse that bit the plower, details the guidebooks don't mention. No shit when the masses are massive, you might get caught up in the crowd, or wasted space ever passive, breathing no more air than allowed, and keep your head bowed. Your money is loud, it's funny, we're simple enough to be proud. Kids overruling the Lower East Side, pricing out the church-going regulars, luxury, blight, inexorable slide into the laps of thirsty predators, and we're all on our phones, but we're alone, traversing the consequences, budgeting our expenses, not so much defeated as outshone. Folks with head wounds can't be late for their shift, just like staring a mouth horse in the gift. It's easy to get torn to shreds on the evening commute home from work. I've almost run out of my meds. That's why I'm acting like a jerk. Our entire lives in service to a system that makes us nervous. Would you prefer to take the bus or walk? Is it better to make love or just talk? Lending and owing, spending and growing, surviving for that moment when you're considered a person worth knowing, over and over and over again. Consuming, rooming, and never doing, jumping off the High Line, living, screwing, like friends, sharing passwords and gossiping, can't ride the ferry without vomiting. Thought I'd make it here, but it's getting late, would never resort to moving upstate, yet almost reached my middle age, still barely earn a living wage. I think I deserve a fat promotion, but they'd rather throw me in the ocean. Another coworker's leaving, we're addicted to achieving, industrial amusements and disgrace, competing in this blissful marketplace. As leftists clamor for facility, conservatives call for civility. Others communicate through capital, ruthless consumerists, unflappable. Troubled by ontological queries, there's no time for pleasure these days. Caught up in my various worries, envious of most of the gays. But if money is speech, and speech is free, Exactly where does that leave me? I know who's holding all the cards, headquartered in the Hudson Yards, a stairway to nowhere spiraling up into the shape of a crushed coffee cup, undertaking to monetize the air, fortifying a balding billionaire, no property or proper voice. Here comes the yearly rent increase. You'd burn it down given the choice and take over a pal sublease. The painful thing I haven't considered is even though I am left embittered and I feel the game is rigged against me, there's so much grief and trauma I can't see. Even when I challenge myself to learn, I won't let go of what I didn't earn. The media will use all this as grist, feeding us nasty received narratives. It won't hurt as much if you don't resist. Rethink those ravenous imperatives. His Honor broadcasts lengthy excuses for the latest brutal abuses perpetuated by racist police. Assaulting a turnstile jumper, kicking a bum in the dumper, all is forgiven by a press release. I've seen snarling cops pepper spray a crowd of peaceful marchers demanding their due. Might think they target the ones being loud, but soon enough, they're coming for you. Don't ask me what the stars portend, or how to save a starving friend. My responses will be clunky as a decimated junkie just waiting for his life to end. It's hard to say I saw the scene that was most vital to the play, tucked back in the third mezzanine during an allergenic day, renewed by a mercenary faction to cash in our cachet for clout. Ellis Island's a tourist attraction. We're daubing our eyes with whiteout. Roy Cohn is back, naming names, rubbing coke on his bleeding gums. Blame Lana Turner and CRL James. To hell with your fatal outcomes. Some people really are monsters, and now a word from our sponsors. The sweet smell of cannabis on the wind gets me where I'm going faster. Sensitivity and ambition twinned prepares us for the next disaster. Plagues come and go like nefarious trends. I miss breathing clean air, kissing strangers. My hookup won't end up where he intends. We're at a risk for a slew of new dangers. Just when he thought it was safe to go back in the water, the president's daughter falls off a yacht after smoking crack, only living how her parents taught her. The rest of the country scares me. It's not how it looks on TV. Can you believe that Arkansas exists? I mean, how'd they end up like this? Don't drive or put up with bullshit. Where else on this earth could I fit, except the variegated freak show I've decades come to love and know, where we scrape by in our bubbles, chasing after vague opportunities, gorging on each other's troubles, making hay from all our disunities. An exhilarant drives me to strive, and I'll even put up with Staten Island, if it means another day on the scene where infested fancy blooms evergreen. Plead columniously for a reprieve, check out any time, but you can never leave. Accept the things I cannot change, exchange the lives you can't derange. Let the homeowners run away, escape this land of endless fights. Meanings, not just a term of play, and here we'll stay to light the lights. So that's that. So if you don't know, we do have some benevolent billionaire built us a giant stairway to nowhere in New York City. It's just a stairway that kind of goes in a circle, and it's supposed to be this decorative thing that tourists can enjoy. And immediately people started jumping off it to kill themselves. So now we have a big stairway to nowhere that you can't even walk up. I'm going to conclude my piece with a short poem called American Studies. Something's coming, who knows what it is, but it is going to hurt. Impunity collapses from the topmost like a concrete festoon crumbling off a mid-century skyscraper, hitting a constituent who just found out she's pregnant. The firefighter jumps from the passenger seat of his wife's station wagon and hoses down the roadside dirt by the church with his pee. We saw him rip a phone book in half in home economics last year. Do you ever feel like your life is being controlled by invisible forces? Have you ever thought of hiring a team of experts to chase the ghosts out of your house? You get what you pay for, and in this case we paid for garages of dead children, Caucasian mendacity, a few more drones, and the sky is a white mirror barreling down on reality. I see my late dad clinging to the remnants of compliance, a pop stuck in his fist like the weapon he forgot to buy, screaming, "What color was he?" Glutton for freedom, doesn't matter from what, long as they get all they want instantly and constantly, don't care how the sausage is made. God used to be an absolute, but now he's just a chump. In the park at dawn, a teen athlete fidgets with his waistband, wondering when the acceptance letters will arrive as a reddening curve leers from within a bush. My landlord moans for care, wants the gov out of his hair, held to account, it doesn't amount to much he thinks is fair. Everyone wants to be a daddy when they're so bad at fathering. The American Studies prof jumped off the roof of the boys' dormitory, pimpernel tucked in his pocket like a note. They say he loved Melville. They say he was black. Endless lawyers in a paradise of litigation, satisfaction is negotiable. The problem with money is that it isn't real, but we love to let myths ruin our lives. Blood spray on the Burger King parking lot, some guy sleeping in his car, some cop didn't think twice. The coroner said the holes in his hands were defensive wounds. Crude implorations carved into the bathroom wall, with a knife that kissed me once when I was alone in the wood. I'm fed up with this world. Sorry nobody told you. Your values are schlock. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Next reader is Norman Fischer. I read so many of his books that when I heard he was going to be in New Orleans, I asked him to read with us. Although he apparently spends a lot of his time sitting around, he's really a materialist. Or, as he says, this word I want to fondle, aligning his poetry with language writing. Norman treats experimental writing as a meditation that makes his work unpredictable to listen to. So please listen to the warm yet volatile Norman Fischer.
Thanks, James. I really feel quite pleased and honored to be among the roof poets, even though I'm not a roof poet exactly.
An honor.
An honor, really.
Or a future.
Maybe, who knows? And I want to apologize in advance because I have a class that I have to teach, and I have to walk 4 blocks to a place where I can have a quiet room with internet, which almost certainly means I'm going to leave a little early, and I don't know whose reading I'm going to miss. I apologize. I wish I didn't have to do this, but it's long ago scheduled. It couldn't be changed. I want to read from, can you see this? This is a photograph that I took at our house midday, on a day when there were forest fires in California, and the sky never cleared, and it was like evening all day long. This is a book of mine called Nature, and I want to read a little bit from Nature and from another book. But first from Nature, and this is actually in honor of James's book Selfie, which is quite an incredible journey if you read it. So this is for that book and for you, from Nature. Language is humanly natural in 3 ways. First, words pretend to refer to things that do or don't exist in inner and outer worlds. Second, particular facts are never factual, they are metaphors for the vague. Third, nature stands in for spirit, which has taken a break from human violence and thus requires a stand-in. About the first, natural history is a code. It gives clues, structure. Every abstraction has its root in the particulars of nature beyond which the mind leaps to transcend itself. Right means straight, as a lodgepole pine. Wrong means twisted, like the Mississippi. Spirit is wind. Transgression means the crossing of a line. Supercilious, the raising of an eyebrow. Heart means warm emotion, though it is merely a pumping lump of flesh, and blood is generally unpleasant outside the body when it turns dull brown after exposure to air. Head, an encasement of skull, means thought. Words transmit their meanings darkly over time in the mouths of many confused people trying to establish credibility during long evenings safe from wild animals. But the same is true of children. They convert nouns to verbs and go on from there to continual alienation with more and more complex locutions. A tragic, if inevitable, process which explains the commonplace ancient custom of child sacrifice. About the second. But words are the least of it. Language is more than words. It's already present in the things themselves. Everything natural is spiritual. What seems solid is as wind, invisible but for its presumed effects. Everything in space is somehow stuck inside the mind. To see mind, you make a picture. A lion or a fox, for example. A lamp, a snake, a flower. Let us not forget the tree, the garden, the orchard, the apple, and the aforementioned snake, called serpent, or in some cases dragon or fish. These may also refer to body parts, or light and darkness, heat and cold. Or the distance before us, hope, and the distance behind, memory, both of which we imagine. Everything is imagined, in the strictest sense, not as it seems. A river reminds us of life's flow. A stone thrown into that river, causing outreaching ripples, reminds us of the ripple effect in gravitational waves, or ripple, an inexpensive wine. Justice, truth, love, freedom, reason, these are all somewhere there in the river, if you can find them, because you know they are there, in you, as wrinkles in your head or heart or other body parts. Those things, which are not things and can't exist, aren't in us. We are in them. The blue sky full of distant nighttime orbs. God made all this independent of methodology. Or so those who can speak can say. None of it is accidental. Poets didn't invent it. In all things, we are relational. We cannot understand or be understood without others. Nature alone is merely nature, but only bring in the clowns. And nature becomes as dynamic and tragic as we are. We observe her and stagger with wonder, bludgeoned into incomprehension. Attempting to understand, we subjugate. Subjugating, we curtail our own majesty. We play pathetic and terrible music at our own funeral, which we did not notice had been constantly approaching with the passing heavy days. Maybe, yeah, because of time, I'll stop there. And I'll read a little piece from this. I'll read a little piece from, this is my latest projection. Men in Suits, from Blaze Box. Nature is a tomb book. Open, close, open. Open, close, open. White hair, dark eyebrows, dark eyebrows, dark hair. Open, close, open. At the end of Jewish history and world history, ground down to a powder. Open, open, close, close, taking the picture of now. Camera clicks, shutter opens, shuts, a moment struck. A moment opened. Close open makes a record, a remembrance, commemoration, which life, what channel, the channel or charnel or open, closed, opened, as womb, life, forced remembrance as times, moment, open, closed. I need to open a little bit so I can help you. I can understand if it's too much for you. I don't know now. And I can't do it for you unless you are willing to do it for yourself. But there is something more. You are standing at the doorstep of your house, shouting at me about Christina, how much you hate her, how terrible she is, how much you are insisting that I also hate her in the same way. But she is pregnant with another man's child. And my own mother, whose son has died, has made me her son. I'm her son. Her love's divided. I say this as a woman. I want them to recognize my dignity as a woman. All women are not your mother. It doesn't matter about the car, the money. And you are standing at the doorstep of my house, in which you have been many times, at my table, at my hearth. You are yelling, and I am feeling attacked. I have an illness in my stomach. A colleague of mine has died from this. When you want something from someone, you come alive again. You look at me, sometimes aggressive, sometimes the little boy. I know I have to repair myself so you can be repaired. I know I have to heal myself so you can be healed. I am so touched when we come to that place, the rapist says. I am hearing you, and I feel trapped by my love. I don't see an exit. And this is what I hate in men. The physical violence, the domination, the economic oppression. When you say, I, you're exposed. But I'm not used to saying, I. I am not trained to say, I. I feel a lot of love for my kids, but also I love my boundaries. Close to what you feel. Take that time if you need it. I am just now aware of this. I am afraid. I am too much. Too much for myself. Too much for any man. Too much for my children. She doesn't like it sometimes when I'm too close to myself. I carapace myself. Still, tears come. It's pathos. I don't like it. I hate my tears. That they come indiscriminately, indecipherably, that I do not choose them, do not decide that they come. Tears will no longer be necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. Uche Nduka is the author of the roof title Scissorwork in 2022, and we will publish a Bainbridge Island notebook later this year. Sharon Mesmer said of Scissorwork, Uche Nduka asks, but how safe are words? and then answers his own question. Sometimes you've got to squirm or else. This reminds me of Edward Marshall's line in New American Poetry, "Leave the word alone, it is dangerous." But Uche doesn't stop at danger. He's not daunted by it. He documents countless identities for poetry in his energetic lines filled with love for language and love for us. Uche Nduka.
Thank you so much, Jen. This is my first time working in New Orleans, and I must say, so far, I love the city. And thank James and the team of Group Books for getting me down here for this. I'll read from the roof book titled Scissorwork, and then I'll share something from what I'm presently exploring. All I can say is that these are poems of shifting moods and tones and geography. And the moonlight is very essential to my process. Are you making music or making trouble or both? Sat on you Lulu, sat on you suffer. What else would I have asked for? What does my stigmata mean to you? Switching from station, it became a critic's winter. Bayonets in the southern twilight, trees brushing past your thoughts. Helen Hunt Jackson's A Century of Dishonor. A song can hold a final verdict, a splinter in the alphabet. You will say, did I not notice the comma or what? Insert invective in the Constitutional Conference. The foliage here is suspect. Pipes on the docket. Rooming with the legends. Nice one. Be careful. Bunk break or lapping water. The weather stumbled and stumbles. They hijack the elections with careless tattoos. No trophy to polish, no puff piece on the way. Hoopla over a breastplate. Half pie and coupon. The disgust and revulsion of playing grown up. Put a space between you and the antidote. Call it my default mode. I see straight through the traffic ticket, yet I reject leg walk. I am dissociating myself from sweetness, laying the table during a coffee, lawyering her shelves. My merit is in parachuting into the abyss, burying me in the thunderstorm, for there are 3 ways of conversion: secretly, astrally, publicly, a weave of horseplay, to the shift in a black, a summer soundtrack of acoustic junk, rowdy in all the right places. Hi, homie. Congratulations, you now have the sky beneath your elbows, eating near the barbershops, each plain platter its own grace, a warm wind well-spoken, Zulu blues, erasing charts that go beyond tutelage, left to sweat it and swear at it. In fidelity, I find the ache of alchemy. We solve the dissolution, the smear. There is always the level, always the gratification. I can splash and walk through closed doors. I can push hard on stupendous moments and nemesis. But how safe are words? In all the public places you can imagine, Torre, Baldwin, and Pine are my pals. The tall tales around them, Akai or Dozier, collecting cigarette butts, Beckman, his careless promises. signatural Harriet Jacobs always being in the center of the place, undressing your culture. Why are we so cool? And the monuments are full of pitfalls, hokey pokey, workplace, train wreck. It was raining hard. We were fucking hard. A man who voted with snow. The poetry madcoons are also power mad. Detonate, twerk forever and ever, writing on the ball. The British canons were not demented, we are not deluded. They deliberately destroyed our farms, ruined our houses. Forget the intention. Give a can of soup to language each hour. A buzz of the growing, the infinite as muzzle. A pledge in the haphazard night boating panorama. Get laid. Only the saddle to blame, flamboyant, unsettling, straddled by last year's beauty queen. Accordion swing, time to wipe your slate clean of false civility. To such I will reply, I have no style, because sex is not a film festival. To such I will bequeath the moods of this emerald. Write till your pencil runs out of lead. They have their eyes on this very room where sadness is blooming. Forget them, she says. I will give you a while. I will give you a tumble with luminaries. Wait in the road. Your bare shoulders, your nipples tipping toward walkabout. After the shamrock shake, I thought we would get pulled over. Practice well, but enter without full shorty. Beyond signals, we lie together, nude, waiting to be born. I have a very short attention span for past crashing. Raise the red suitcase, one place left. You meld the pattern.
So I just share a little bit from poems that I'm trying to discover or that are trying to discover me. I don't know,
Without quite knowing why a plate of footnotes is overflowing. Seems it can't help sensing oncoming ecstasy. The fire tower plums its own interpretative key. That's the way it is, all the way through. I step away from this poem to address you, to address you, to address you. I hear you snoring in the fire tower, a chorus of one. You stopped me because I didn't write with enough scowling. Layers of the onion of flaming lovers, painting pianos, Venus, Mars, after waiting beside the platinum on board. Your poster, your record sleeve, the best of the worst. Till you dawn, to where lovers are not qualm shy. If this goes on, we will soon hear the music of our lovemaking and what memory has made of us. I've been with her and the baseball diamond all morning, loving at full speed as it does swing side to side, lashing ourselves to the maelstrom. Beauty does that to you. The heart must move and eat while I look at you. You're my daily infinity. We were well lit by a skylight, life in color, a screen punch, a pop-up pool party, love uncorked, holy chaos of everyday life. Blue-green hue, cool browns that warm up the walls, twisted jute, true black in various shades. I feel like people who have found love are just so happy for you that you've also found it. How do you keep it going? How do you get it to grow? We just have to ride out the storm. Long, honest chats, difficult conversations. Not to delete all the files, but to commit to a reset. We do much more than move body against body. Thank you.
Thank you, Uche. Uche does this thing which I don't see other people able to do in a convincing way, which is to write a love poem. Evelyn Reilly is my neighbor, both living around the corner from me in New York and in her interest in environmental poetry. Of her first book, Styrofoam, John Ashbery said, "How do we go about living in what Evelyn Reilly defines as our infinite plasticity, prosperity, plenitude, and still have room for poetry?" Styrofoam might just show us how to do this. I agree with John, and Ruth has since also published Apocalypso in 2012, Echolocation in 2018, and her new manuscript is, you're going to read from your new manuscript today? Very good. Evelyn Reilly.
Thank you, James, and thank you all for being here. I love watching Uche read from handwritten pages. I've never had the courage to do that. I'm always so impressed. It's such a beautiful thing. I will, in celebration of Ruth Books, which I'm very, very grateful to, I'm going to read just one poem from my last book, Echolocation, which has a whole group of poems called Self. And this one's called, Yet the World Can Still Be Very Pretty. Self sets out on a perilous journey, juggling attributes of selflessness in wheels of multiplying palms. It works so hard to evade the quagmires of objectivity, the fogs of interiority, the candelabras of consumer desire. Perhaps it's good the extinction of aspects of the language, certain subjections of the subject, supposed agreements of gender, other failures of imaginative sympathy. Self follows a thread of narrativity only to crash against the glass of non-transparent communication. The shock continues at least a century. Spectacularly too late in cultural history, this fucking elegiac mode, the same with the grief and the charm. You on the street with your technopad of self-possession. Self accidentally just downloaded your entire social history. 8 other selves like this. Only 8. That's poetry for you. Still, the world can be very pretty. There's a river here, a dappled surface. The biodegradability of these thought patterns. Animality in the best sense of the word. Everyone keeps moving. I'm going to read from a new manuscript I have called Having Broken R. That's Having Broken period R. We are period. And this is a sections from a series called Sleeping with Trees. The gates to nothingness open 1/8 of an inch each night, framed by trees that grow exuberantly. Among the leaves, blooms of durable insects. A limb reaches out into the emptiness, seeking to make contact, then grasp. You study all this from your bed through your night goggles, the world that continues without us. The drawers of thinking won't close, so overflowing with non-disposables and the ambushes of memory. Nothing put away stays in place. The sound of no longer needed body parts dropping to the ground. You take a tiny rake to clean up this mental landscape, a sort of curator gardener, paying your respects to the wakefulness of trees. Not just any plant, the most sensitive of plants bends to your touch, your presence. How could it be otherwise, mimosa, waking up to the weeping of flower heads and larvae, the usual worm chatter and dissonant turf? Cold, hard-working birds drop out of the sky ghostly with the colors of their disappearance. You lay a torn sweatshirt on the pyre, some poems, an empty container of Roundup, intone some prophecies based in statistics. Sleeping with moon-enameled branches and silent pulses of missing insects, spears of cheap pillow down set up a battle in one ear, while the trees persist in their refusal to be individuals, the rhizomes that aid and abet them spread. All this with the only light coming from the crack under the door to the common hallway. You remember the words, first reconcile with the neighbors. This is the only true and hardest prayer. Sipping cosmic energy through light green straws, at the same time digging toes into the timelines of the dead. A disturbance that is not really disturbing to the resting places of the naturally interred. Someone's endless pleading, another's eternal worry, still roam the hunting grounds of the villi and microvilli. The ceiling nods in concert with the heads of dried grass rattling open your dream, just as an imaginary spring was coming into bloom again. But you live in the age you live. The sound of generations beat down on your head, using it as a drum skin of accusation. All that is broken, broken, broken. Out of the tree cradling plastic a forecast of sea. Above it, a stellar umbrella unfolds for the 14 billionth time. Somewhere a reckoning ticks, but you aren't listening as you clip the eyebrow hairs that curl down into the eyes of the beloved. The notion of the soul as interiority, what crap tonight. The trees multiply the extensions and extensions of extensions, as metallic blankets cover the ankles of sleeping children. The night is loud with the becoming of insects, the silence of plants digesting another day's worth of star material along the fence lines. Into the war poems of the environment comes the bright clamor of the rich putting on their armor. You get up to clear some space on your desk of doubt, looking for a definition of love you lost somewhere. Chains of ordinary kindness self-perpetuating in thin air, a force that emanates radially. Now creatures free from bilateral being are entangled in a canopy of forest thinking, drenched in the language of rising seas. Octopi and other cephalopods offer such appealing methods of propulsion and perception, you are almost carried off by them. But the wind is picking up and you are afraid of losing power. You open the windows to feel the wet unleafing of fixed positions, other planetary sympathies. So what has been the nature of your participation? The method of your self-dispersion? Have you taken part in disruption when disruption was needed? What limits have you set for your explorations? What floor for your excavations? Why just there and not further? Do you find these questions unnerving? Is that whether you're both sweating and shivering? Am I handing you a bouquet or a prize or an opportunity? Tell us about your position in the scheme of ecosystem services, as opposed to, say, these trees. No need to worry, this is all just for informational purposes. Now diagram the nodes of your connectivity. Don't forget to include the burrs on your pants today, the jet streams in the rafts, the stowaways riding the plastic ropes of the oceans. Snow takes the place of leaves among things that fall inaudibly, all that happens but is unheard. The desire to live inside a picture, streams and mountains, rocks and gorges. This is the aesthetic of detachment. Trees are to landscape as books to decorating, a poet says, obscene. This is the environmental aesthetic. Another brings your attention to the friends admiring the snow in an era of general depravity, the aesthetic of being together in violent times. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evelyn. Our last reader, oh, actually, I should say all of these readers have books by Ruth out, and we have a table downstairs, and we're trying to get them into your hands so we don't have to mail them back and pay the U.S. Post Office twice. So please come by. We're selling them as cheaply as we can, and I think they're all pretty good. I mean, of course. So I think it was 1978, I started publishing Kit Robinson's poetry in Roof magazine. Since then, and actually before then, Kit is the author of 24 collections of poetry. Most recently, Quarantina, which Lavender Ink, the very people who are organizing this, have published. So double reason to pay attention to Kit's work. Roof books by Kit include Thought Balloon 2019, Democracy Boulevard 1998, Balance Sheet 1993, and Ice Cubes 1987. His work is characterized by good-natured moving rapidly between many, many themes and registers. Kit has been putting out new work online, and his prolific pen produces many great works of poetry, from reviews to essays to memoirs. So we can't stop him from writing. We love to listen to him. Here's Kit Robinson.
Thank you, James. Thanks for that introduction. Thanks for publishing my work and having confidence in me all this time. I really appreciate it. Closer. I'm going to read from the most recent of my Roof books, Thought Balloon. Transfluency. The poem doesn't care who writes it. It is waiting in the wings, a belt of ekphrastic energy circumnavigating the earth, the planet we are made of. While others struggle to fasten down completely by standard protocols of identity and access management, we enter an archway and just keep walking. It's good exercise, as opposed to war, pollution, greed, hate, and delusion, though these certainly have their adherents. I is the sum total adding up to now, subject to future operations, add to, subtract from, multiply by, divide by, and drive by, trailing a long history like a tail reaching back into the paleo. There's no place like magma when it comes time to relax and think it over. But we are too busy being multiples. The fountain draws from many streams by way of the existence of cities, shoots its spray to the heavens in technicolor and black and white. This experience of seeing is basic to being both awake and asleep, an insertion just beneath the skin, a workshop just beneath the floor, water beneath the surface of the earth, darkness. Transformation is natural. Woman to man, man to woman, the long road to being, the butterfly's return, silence where before there was none. The poem does not let go. It arrives from the future incessantly. ordinary fingers pick up on its cascade of plans. We can see it from here, a head with stars for eyes. To play extremely slowly is to caress the surface of time, to speed, to abolish its domain. Cheer up, my brothers and sisters, and walk in the sunshine. Our understanding is so very great, being beyond the comprehension of a single mind. Life forms outstrip the rigorous calisthenics of calculation, populate the ocean floor. Seeing as how. Seeing as how you don't know what you don't know, rhymes arrive by special delivery with mobile, global, and white label options, because the day is long, and as long as you're up, and it tells a story, as long as you're armed. The sense of duration is illusory when you come to think of it, because nothing lasts forever, and we are gathered here together on the head of a pin, so start walking. Neither a broadcaster nor a listener be, but walk directly home, head down, hands in pockets, take in the dog, put out the cat. Probably do this in the early AM here, so maybe midnight there, as the world turns over and goes back to sleep under cloud cover, like a false clue in a detective book. Wind against the sun in windows opens a trapdoor to memory by being there first, a neat trick, the width and breadth of a continent. Where am I in all this? A poem could last a whole day. Its stresses can stress you out if you're not careful. You can't be too careful. Are you putting me on? Put another record on. Put a jacket. I'm sitting on a low wall on 10th Street writing this on my phone. That's where. What about the reader? Where is she? What's on the line is immediacy, divided by contingency equals transitivity, the key property of both partial order relations and equivalence relations, according to Wikipedia. Let's stop here and rest a minute. The world is large and cannot be taken in at a glance, but we are on top of it, sitting side by side on a front porch swing on the continental divide. From here, the ocean looks endless. Bottom line, many fishes. For fishes, no end to water. For birds, no end to air. For humans, no end to talking. Walking and talking. Taking things as they come. Other points of interest. Other lines of thought. Other planes of there. Earth Sense, for Rachel Carson and Agnes Martin. Inspiration grows out of the earth, the garden of earthly delights, always just around the corner on your way to the store. Change jingles in your pocket. Life rides along in your bag. What's most worthy of analysis is what falls out of them, your inadvertent asides, tentative, tenuous, subtle, supple, under the breath. This command and control environment is made for TV, not for you and me. We are otherwise, non-compliant with the panicky strictures of inflated dominance, to the toxic fantasies of prize assholes trailing fake news ties. We prefer the continuous, borderless, microtonal transnational flow, otherwise known as reality. As in Keep It Real, Holmes. Remember, this earth is our joint hood. Let's save all beings, okay? This land is made for sensitive beings of every color and stripe, not just a small club of fascist thugs and their billionaire keepers. I mean, really, come on. But where was I? The sun still shines on the local garden. It bounces off the pavement and puts a spring in your step. There are people to see, sounds to identify, thoughts to entertain. There is dinner to shop for and cook, kids and grown-ups to check in on. Let me know when you have a minute. Imperfection is everywhere. All your efforts fall short. Disappointment, frustration reign. our idea of it is unattainable. Yet altogether, it is perfectly all right when seen in a certain light, the light of a distant campfire, sulfur light, diagonal light, opal light, and old light, and marsh light, and moonlight. Thanks, inspirational friendship, for lighting the way. The sea around us is an inspiration any child can understand. A physical delight, energy stored in battery harmony, open for all to hear. Alternate pages turn quickly when no one is looking. If you are shocked, you must have been asleep. Something can be reality or TV, never both. Mistakes are the saint's way of messing with us. If only we could see the future, but our backs are to it. Turn around, look out, and live. That is the message in the bottle. Way off on the horizon, distant plume of smoke. The eye sees what the mind cannot grasp. Turning over in space. We are alive to the half of it. Let's order in and go through the game plan again. It's going to be a long, hard slog. We better get started. There isn't much time. The mind is a collective breathing. Our direction has never been more clear. Phrases from a manual of style. Assign to each number a color. 1, black. 2, white. 3, red. 4, yellow. 5, blue. 6, green. 7, orange. 8, purple. 9, brown. 10, silver. Do the same thing with animals. The phrases that float into place from who knows where. The night is long and will have to be covered by a body at rest, one leg draped over the side. For the longest time, I thought you were there beside me, then realized you'd fled to the other room, leaving me to grapple with my insomnia. A sequence of hill towns, each with its special wines, meats, leather goods, art and architecture. The palace afloat on a high cloud above the village as sunset. Came back a different way. Tourism is rapid eye movement by other means. Napoleon takes the same walk every time. Dereliction of duty, sensitive, curious, and chaste, phrase happy. Several centuries later, we teeter on the brink, it feels like. The polar ice caps are melting into our Coke Zero. Fires consume the western states. Hurricanes batter the south. Quakes shake Mexico. Plastic manacles ensnare Pacific whales. What more proof do you want of climatastrophe? On an ordinary Umbrian morning, quiet overtakes the crew. In after-coffee exercise routines, the pen is a kind of flute. The flute, a drum for keeping time. The book, a mystery. The body spread wide in Tai Chi. The double C is a hard C, as in Pinocchio. The San Fettuccio giant roams the lakeside. Colors rifle through memory. Nights clothed in silence. Phrases from a manual of style. History resting on a hilltop. Coming into view. Coming to think of it. Returning to the scene of the crime. History is crying shame. Racking up points on a map. Coming to light in the plains of a familiar face. And this last one is called Last Things First. Last blast of cold air. Last song on the airwaves. Last clink in the bowl. Last voices from beyond the pale. Last symbolism. Last black jacket, black shirt, silver tie. Last black velvet suit. Last flute flutter high above the fray. Last waiting to go. last edge of moon through scattered clouds. Things have got to change. Things have a hold on you. Things like this are never easy. Things will be better by and by. Things will be all right. Things will continue. Things are never simple. Things called by the wrong names. Things leaning against a wall. Things my mother taught me. First in, first out. First to speak is coyote. First I hear one voice, then many. First lady of the opera, Maria Callas. First look at the new crop. First, get it right. First base, who's on? First time ever I saw your face. First in the hearts of his countrymen. First dress, then get in the car and go. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming, and we've got some great things going on this afternoon. Hank Lazar's going to read, just leaving right now. Who else? Adina Karasik is going to read. Michael Ruby read this morning. I mean, are you going to read Rodrigo? No. Rodrigo Toscano is a notable exception. A great poet we should be reading here, but it's just going to appreciate us. Thank you all for coming. See you at your book.